So my name is Arya JP Karijo. My name is also part of my story because it's not the name I was given, it's the name I've chosen for myself. Yeah. So growing up, let's see. Damn, that was a long time ago. So I don't know. I think I've learned a lot of things from my birth family, and I know. So probably one value I would say is my mom always had this thing of if we went to school and worked hard and stuff, we'll kind of get back the life we used to have when we were kids. So we grew up in a really well-off family, and then my dad and my mom had a breakup at some point. And then we lived with my dad for a couple of years, and then he remarried and he kicked us out.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so my mom had to take our transfer from Eldoret, come to Meru, start our life again from scratch for us. And then we had a whole bunch of really poor years where we used to struggle for everything: food, getting kicked out of houses, things like that.
How old were you at that time?
I think when my mom came back for us, I was in class 8, I was 14. And yeah, I guess our last ones were 10, they were class 3 at the time.
Oh, so you have siblings?
Yeah, we are 6. So my mom and 5 of us. So there's big C's, and there's me, and then there's my bro, and then the last ones are twins. Well, I mean, we're not kids now, we are like a really old family. The last ones are 34 this year.
Wow. Oh gosh, that's okay. All right. We're not going to calculate and figure out how old you are.
Numbers person.
Yeah, we'll do the math after this. So tell me about building your own family.
Okay, so yeah, that was interesting. It wasn't something I thought of in advance. You know, the way people say, oh, I'm gonna have children, I'm gonna, I don't know, get married, I'm going to make a family. No, it didn't work out that way. So ours was more different. It was more of, we all cared about each other, stuff we're going through separately. And then finally decided it makes sense if we go through life together. So it was me choosing them and them choosing me. So it kind of worked both ways. Yeah. So
that's really beautiful. So what does the word family mean to you as you understand it?
I think for me, based on how my family has come about, I think there's a huge part about choice. And so it's choosing to love. That's what constitutes family. Whether it's for me or for regular quote and unquote normal families, there's always the element of choice that's always ignored. When that couple come together and decide to build a family, they choose. When they decide to keep a baby, they choose. When they decide to go and adopt, they choose. So when me and my girls and my son decide to live together as a family, we choose. So it is that huge part of choosing. And well, I mean, for again normal regular families, there's the part of the blood part, which your biology, you give birth to a child and all that. And yeah, so, and maybe that obscures the choice part a lot, but for us, choice is the only thing that makes it make sense for us.
Well, you talked about there being kind of a separation between the normal and maybe what you have, which is different from that. Is there really a separation between the two, or is family?
I think family is family, but societal perceptions, I mean, there's always this whole idea that family has to be that, well, like in our society, typically family is supposed to be that man and that woman who choose each other, go to church, get married, call the whole clan, and then they're expected by society to deliver babies for this.
So maintain and grow the society.
Yeah, so that's kind of typically what society defines family as. And even, I don't know, in Kenyan constitution, and when there's that whole article 45 about family, they didn't think of families like what I have, or families of the single mom who adopts a child, or the lesbian woman who decides she's having a baby. And so those are not thought of. They just thought of
The
what I'm
typical
calling the
nuclear.
typical family.
Yeah. So who are the members of your family?
Well, our family is unique in two ways. One, well, in a couple of ways. But yeah, I think the first thing that is common to all of us, we still are all involved in activism work. So, I mean, not as a profession, but as part of our lives. Mm-hmm. So, like one of my girls, a photographer, but when there's demos and matches, she'll be there. Mm-hmm. There's a performing artist, but then they use the artwork for activism. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's a rare thing to find. Like, and I come from a research background, but yeah, then I started speaking about human rights, about transgender rights, and yeah, I found now I have a family who's constituted of activists. So I think that will be the first interesting thing. So, second one, I guess that a majority of us are queer except one person. So again, that's interesting. So in terms of sexuality, lesbians, and in terms of gender, there's me who's a trans woman, there's my son who's a trans man, and we have a gender non-conforming person. So it's one of those, it's a family where all these things which don't come naturally to society, calling people with their right pronouns, and and accepting that when your daughter comes, she's not necessarily going to bring a man, going to be a girlfriend. Yeah, so it's those kind of things. I think that's also an interesting part of us. And then the third thing is that we are all adults. So my son is 24. That makes it a bit complex because I think I have a 10-year gap between the oldest of my children and myself, which in the typical family, if that happened, then it will mean someone was married off at 10 years old.
That's true, actually. That's true.
Yeah, but for us, being a family of choice, that happens. And so being adults, there's a lot of societal things that come into play. Like if you're adults, should you take responsibility, or does the person who's the parent need to be stepping in as much as she is, as much as I do? So stuff like that, yeah.
So tell me about your position as mother. How because is it, as we understand it, being that you are the kind of like the parental figure in the household, and how are you navigating that, and how are you defining it for yourself?
Navigating, well, I'm not sure I'm doing a good job at navigating.
That's what all mothers say secretly.
Yeah. So a lot of times there's always that whole imposter feeling syndrome, and you're there like, this is not, I'm not this thing. But yeah, but then there's times, and I think what's been really interesting, I don't know if it's the same with regular families. I think in my children's lives, just based on the fact that, I don't know, being queer, being activist, there's things maybe other parents have never had to consider, like stuff to do with mental health and things like that. What's going to be a trigger, and so there's all that, and then also there's this stuff where if they're going through something, an heartbreak or financial thing or a job thing, then I can be there for them. Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's also I think also a bit different. Like, given our age differences, there's that thing of, oh, mom, you look good today, or no, you need to step up. You can't be looking like this, while other transgender women out there are slaying. So.
Well, I always they're giving you, fashion advice.
Yeah,
they're looking out for their mom.
A lot.
And how long have you guys lived together in this way as a family?
I think since March this year. I think we've had 6 months
only
together.
6 months together. Wow.
Yeah, we've been tight-knit, I think, But say last year, the March Against Femicide. That would be the one place where we all met. I mean, we all knew each other, but if we were to trace back where like our connection and bond started, will be last year's March Against Femicide. That was like...
In your opinion and in your experience now, do you think the term family should be expanded to include other kinds of connections and relationships? And if so, what else should we consider as family? Or which other pairings or basically which other connections should we consider as family?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying. The choice part is largely ignored. So if there's 1, 2, 3 human beings or just two choose to be together, then we should start thinking of it as family. And so that the choosing, and there's a lot of relationships which people need to start seeing as possible families. The polyamorous, I can't call it a couple, the polyamorous relationship. So there's 3-4 people in a relationship together. Maybe 2-3 of them live together. And again, that should already be seen as family. There's lesbian couples living together. I mean, as much as our law criminalizes it, we should. The fact that it's 2 human beings who are choosing each other, that's family.
That should be enough.
Yeah.
Does religion play any role in your life or in your children's lives?
Well, I think religion has kind of it evolved for me. I think for my children too, because one, like I said, we are a queer family, and so more of mainstream religion teaches us that our existence is wrong, and so there's that whole struggle first where you have to find, if I came from a supreme being, from a God, from a divine, then just I can't be wrong just by my existence. And so there's that whole part where you have to explore, what does God mean for me? What's my connection to the universe? Things about purpose. And I know for me that's been a bit of a journey for me personally, because I grew up in a very Catholic family. My sisters are still very Catholic, so
story of my life as well.
So and a lot of times we always found answers in the teachings of the church, and this is how we are supposed to live life, until me being transgender came up, and there was no answers anymore. And so for myself, it's more of I don't want to hear about this part of your life. We can talk, we can be nice to each other, we can talk, we can work together, because we did a lot. Like I said, we are a very driven family, because my mom always put this as the path for us to get back to, is it a better life or a good life? The good life, So we do a lot of consulting work together. So they're we'll do that, but this other part of your life, I don't know about it. So there's that. I mean, so religion, and if I always think to myself, if the church, if maybe one day the bishop said, trans people okay, queer people okay, that would be the one thing my mom just needs for acceptance.
But the new pope might just do that. He feels very progressive.
I hope so. I mean, so religion was a big part of I was named after the pope.
Oh, wow.
So that's how big it was. So, and so for me, it took a while. I guess nowadays I'm very open to, I'm not so much on the dogma and stuff. I believe in a lot of values, in love, in freedom, in gaining knowledge, which I think is what in the Christian teachings, when they talk about the image of God, they're not talking about a man. They're talking about all these 3 particular qualities. And so there's stuff I pick from my Catholic bringing. There's stuff I pick from a lot of Buddhist teachings about impermanence and all that. And I even explored things like, what are they called? The zodiacs, Yoruba religion. So I've really freed myself to explore. 2 of my children are still Christians. Ronnie has a wall cross in his room.
Wow.
I gifted it to him. It came from my mom. And when I realized he has like strong Christian beliefs, I was like, okay, here's a crucifix for you. Arabian and Sisi exploring, they've been part of an affirming church which accept queer people.
That's wonderful. Here, based in Nairobi.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah. So they are part of that, and even if they're not actively going to church, they still like use the teachings from that. And that's mostly Arabian. Sisi, I'm not sure of their beliefs.
They keep shifting.
Yeah, but
it
yeah,
sounds like you've really built a home where a lot of things are possible.
Yeah.
Even if it's just from the basis of questioning things and exploring.
Yeah, I mean, just gender and sexuality are like core parts of being human. And when life has thrown you this curve where you need to question that I think it opens everything else up for questioning.
Yeah,
so your
absolutely.
faith, relationships, what family means. Yeah.
So tell me about your household, and we're here in your really beautiful house. So tell me, how do you run the house? Do you divide tasks? And you're mentioning earlier your responsibilities as a mother. So tell me how you run your household.
So initially, this is the thing I mentioned about all of us being adults. And so the first couple of months, it was always, I'm not going to like put a lot of tasks. Everyone will just take responsibility and do things. But then what happened over time, you'd find would be doing a lot. And then the others would be happy to just let things flow. And so...
like dishes and tidying
dishes.
up.
Yeah, I mean, everyone had their thing. Reuben likes to clean up. I think made like that a thing. Marilis likes cooking. And so it was always like, yeah, this can balance itself out. You don't need to have like a hard rot and this is how you do things. I think that, and I do dishes a lot because of, I mean, it also helps me. I don't know how to explain, but cleaning dishes.
It's kind of therapeutic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I get it completely. Some music on.
Okay, interesting, yes.
Just chilling. Even cleaning the house can be very therapeutic. Yeah, it's kind of like you're working something in your mind.
Yeah, for Arabian, music and cleaning the house. Me, I'll do music, cleaning the dishes. So it kind of worked. And then I think the only thing we had to put down as a rule was to be conscious of the other person who's going to do it. So even if you're not going to do the dishes, just dump them. And if you could possibly just clean, if it's just one plate, then you don't need to accumulate it. And then I guess the other thing we did was a lot of food. Because, I mean, with Corona, everyone in the house would just be like, 1 month, gas done, food done. You're like, what?
That's true. I don't know. There's the Corona weight, there's the Corona stress. It's a lot.
So we finally had to do like a rota, this is what we're going to eat. And then if we stock up for like food for the household, it's food for the household. If anyone else needs to snack in between, you need to take care of yourself.
So, and then what about like the other financial obligations? So even things like shopping in the house, rent, are you able to distribute that, or are you taking on the majority of that?
No, I take the majority of that. If I ask for the help, it's when I've like completely run out. I'm like, kids, I'm out. Who has cash? We need I think also that was part of the reason why I came together, because everyone was struggling separately. I was like, just let's stay together, let's see how we can.
I mean, you touched on this already, because in your role as mother and because of the specific needs of your household, you do take on a lot of the important expenses. But what about decisions about what the family does? Do you sit and talk together, or how does that run?
Yeah, we have. So, I mean, like I said, our family is built on choice. So, unlike other families, the children also chose the parent. And so, a lot of the values we live for, like, we've had to discuss and agree. So, let me see if there's an example. So, one of us had some trouble with, so it involved the law and all that. And we're like, so this is it. We need to like get the person out of it. So, and doing that meant like sacrifice for everyone. So, I mean, the money was mine, but it was more of, so we agree this is what we stand for as family. If any of us in trouble, we go all out. And yeah, so there was that whole conscious decision that it's going to affect our budgeting for the next month, and we're going to struggle. But
this is important to us.
This is what counts.
That's really wonderful. What about things like what do you guys do for leisure? Well, before Corona, were you guys going out together? Were you know?
Well, before Corona, they did a lot of.
Or during Corona, who knows?
Well, we've had a lot of interesting birthdays over here.
Oh yes, you did mention once that the birthdays were kind of back to back.
Yeah, so I think that's the only interesting thing we've done post-Corona. Before Corona, the girls will go out a lot with each other. They do sleepovers and stuff. So,
actually, what is the age range of your children?
24 to 29.
Oh wow, so they're really pretty close in age. Yeah. We're again not going to discuss your age. What are your views on marriage?
Marriage. It's interesting. So I think the way marriage is constituted right now, I don't know if it's for other countries, but for Africa, for Kenya specifically, the way it's constituted right now, it's just an oppressive institution for women.
I completely agree. It's really good to be honest.
So, and because the idea of it is really nice. It's like two people who love each other and who are going to grow as individuals together. But then what happens is the two people come together and all the initial noble goals of loving each other, growing as individuals, they just disappear and they start meeting society expectations. So where are the babies? How should you look financially, or how should you present yourself in society? And it becomes such drudge work. Because at weddings, you have a lot of friends who get married, and then weddings, and the time I used to sing at weddings. So
oh wow!
Yeah, with a group.
So many talents.
So we'd be there, and the thinking was always that they look really good together, but then inside you're also afraid for them, because 1 year, 2 years down the line, it's no longer that happy, blissful, hopeful thing they got into. It's now like a burden they're carrying. So it becomes drudge work. And I don't know, a lot of times when, last year when the LGBT community had the repeal case, and when the judges ruled, they said, they're protecting marriage and they're protecting the family. And for me, I thought about it, and I felt they're not actually protecting the interests of the couple in the marriage. They're protecting the interests of society, the vested interests of society in that particular thing. Because right now, marriage and family is like a unit. It's supposed to be the unit that fosters love and caring and all these nice values for society. But right now, it's the unit of extraction. So all adverts, all the billboards, they have the picture of from mortgage to margarine spread. Yeah. The family is what's used in the billboard. And they count on that to keep the married couple, working, not questioning systems. The couple will be in there. The education system is terrible for their children, but they've just been put in this, it's like a cog. They have to keep working, question less. Don't ask, why does my child have to carry all these books? Or they could carry a tablet. Don't question.
Which tablets? The alleged ones are supposed to be provided by the government.
Things like that. Don't question why these tablets never happened. So, and it's in the interest of a lot of corporate and sometimes governments to maintain that non-questioning kind of a family, kind of a marriage, where people are just caught up in the day-to-day, just chasing something that maybe is not real. Yeah. And so for me, I feel, a lot of times marriage has been, and family also has been subverted for other purposes than what it was supposed to be for.
I completely agree. Do you find that within your extended family, people have also this kind of quote-unquote radical ideas of marriage, or is marriage, as you understand it from people looking at people around you, maybe not your core home, because that one is very radical in its composition, but in your extended family, is that how people approach marriage? And do people have multiple partners? You know, are they polygamous perhaps? Are they remarrying? How is marriage approached by your extended family?
Well, if I speak for the family I grew up in, like I said, we're all like very driven. So we're very career-oriented family. So none of my sisters are married. My brother's a partner. And yeah, it was more of marriage and getting children was never like the main thing. So I'm kind of off the beaten path.
But kind of close and welcome in a way.
Yeah, so it was never the idea. And so educational goals, like I think there's 6 masters, 1 doctorate, and I think there's going to be more. I've not contributed a lot to that. I'm hoping to. But yeah, there's all these educational goals, career achievements, 35 under 35, things like those. That's what my nuclear family looks like. Mm-hmm. Our aunties, uncles, they still have that whole idea of, you need to get married, you all your, and they used that against my mom once. I think last year when I was now living my life openly, someone said it's not coming out, it's inviting other people into your life. So
exactly, it's always been your reality.
Yeah. So when a lot of my pictures on my social media, and so one of my uncles called my mom and was like, "Oh, your son is becoming a woman." And so my mom panicked, and she has high blood pressure, and it was a lot of stress for my sisters and everyone. And then finally she stopped picking their calls. And then what happened is they started calling, I would call them neighbors, like very distant relatives from like 2 generations back, and asking them about my mom, saying, this woman has pushed her children to education and to work, and now none of them are married, and she even has a son who's becoming a woman. So it was like a lot of pressure for her. So so my extended family still has the whole concept of you get to a certain age, you produce children.
You produce them. Never mind if you want them, if your levels of fertility are allowing that. That's goodness. What are your views on same-sex relationships?
It's a relationship. It's human relationships. I don't know if people have to constrain themselves to it's same sex, it's opposite sex. It makes no difference. It's 2 human beings connecting with each other, loving each other. So and I mean, for my family, it's actually the opposite. The only straight person is 1 out of 6. So that's really, it's like we really have to be on board with.
You just kind of have to.
Yeah, we can't.
But it kind of feels like it's a loving environment in which all things are possible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, my daughter can bring a boyfriend, my other girls can bring their girlfriends. And I mean, there's also the possibility of 2 of my children dating, because they're not my biological children. So there's all that, yeah.
Wow.
So we have to be like completely open. And I mean, as a trans person, the whole idea of gendering sexuality kind of excludes people like me and my son, because when sexuality is gendered, it was based on men and women, cishet men and cishet women. Mm-hmm. So so when people are called homosexual, it's always referring to cishet women or to cishet men. When they're called hetero, it's always again cishet man, cishet woman. They don't factor in that people like us exist. Mm-hmm. And so when you ask a person like, okay, so I'm a trans woman who's attracted to the feminine, so I'll probably date a woman. What are you going to call that? Mm-hmm. Like, no, you look womanish, or you're some type of a woman, and this is also a woman, so that might be a lesbian relationship. But
it's erasure.
Yeah, it's erasure. It's like we don't we're not supposed to exist at all, so weren't even factored in terms of sexuality. So
So in your composition of your family, it is a chosen family, and how would you describe that? Would that be a sort of adoption, or is it just a formation of family?
Well, it's a formation. I know my son and I considered doing like adoption, but it's not on top of the stack of priorities. We also have to do like our name change and gender affirming whatever change and all that. And there is that. So, but it's formation. It's formation by choice.
This is a strange one, but I guess it still counts. Who leads the task of raising the children?
Oh.
Now that they're adults in this household, how does that work for you?
So it's two parts. I mean, there's the part where I consider they've been raised by other parents before they were my children, and that's what I was saying. Like, maybe my considerations have to be like very different from a regular, typical family. So I have to think of, so like if I'm enforcing things like, clean up and what, I also have to think about, is it a trigger from your previous, from your relationship with your parent and all that. So, but I would say as the parent, I lead that whole, these are our goals, these are our values. Like the meeting we had to discuss how to help one of us, that was like, so this is a value. So like I have to lead that discussion. But then I also trust each one of them to keep me accountable to it and to keep each other accountable to whatever we agree and whatever values we believe make us a family. I mean, there's also the thing that it's an age thing, and I don't know if it happens in a lot of regular families, but just seeing how the socioeconomic setup in Kenya right now, I would suspect that a lot of families might have to parent adults, so 21 to maybe even 30-year-olds. And there's that whole thing of, you want them to be dependent, you want the initiatives to take off, but then you feel that the safety net has to be there for longer than it used to be, maybe in the past. So there's also that dynamic.
How do you navigate things like a combination of maybe traditional and societal rites of passage? So you mentioned that one of your children is still religious. So things like baptism, is that still important to them? Is that something they're seeking out? Things like, I don't know if this applies, but things like circumcision. So things that are, make us members of a society in a particular way. Are those kind of rites of passage evident or not evident, but are they occurring within your family?
Well, I guess the one that we've experienced, two of my girls went to see their birth parent, and it was more of like, what do you call it? The marriage part where the couple go to meet the parents, and there was that. So that was interesting because, I mean...
What was the intention of that meeting?
Well, so my family, unlike regular families, part of the goals is also unspoken goals, but I always hope there's going to be like a good relationship between the birth parents and my children. And so this happened where the birth parent was finally coming around, like, let me meet your girlfriend. And so that happened, and so all like suspense watching this thing unfold. And they went there for a week. So that was interesting. I mean, you'll expect that having set ourselves free from all these norms, like doing the traditional thing of going to introduce your partner to the parents wouldn't count. But in this case, it counted, and it was like really important for them.
So tell me about building a home for your family. What has that reality been for you?
I think for us, it's also been tied to the fact that we're all queer, so to our queerness. So like the last place, just being kicked out because of a flag or a sticker. I mean, we didn't see that one coming, but it happened. And then also finding a place that would accept us was a bit hard. But this place here, they're like really nice. I think the manager edited the contract to show intersex people and other genders. Like he just changed it all to fit to us. And he copied me in one of the conversations with the lawyer, and he was like, oh, the lady who runs the house is possibly intersex or transgender, and so that's why we have to make this accommodation. And so it was very unique, but I think it gave me hope. I mean, there's some goodness in the world.
Yeah, not just accepting, but also really fully seeing you in your essence.
Yeah.
Are there other maybe considerations that maybe regular families don't have, things that they have to navigate? Because you mentioned even earlier things like changing your name legally and other things like that that affirm you in your understanding of yourself and your presentation of yourself.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you are having to now navigate as an adult, as the mother of this household?
Yeah, so, well, personally for me, it's the documentation. I know before this place, the last place we tried to get a house, at the negotiation with the owner of the house, he's in the States, and we talked on email, and he was like, oh, this is fine. And I sent him my documents. He was like, oh, I understand, this is okay. I'll let you meet my agent. So introduced us on email to the agent. And the first thing the agent said was like, so the names you used on the contract and the names on this document are different. I'm like, oh, okay, they're all my names. What do you want? And he was like, oh, send me your ID. And then I sent him the ID, and he was like, oh, the name on the ID and the name on the passport are different. I'm like, they're all mine, so you choose what you're comfortable with, and then write out the contract with that, I'll sign. And so I was like, I'll use the ID. So I used the ID, and then on the door, I was supposed to view the house. And I show up, and then it got like really uncomfortable. We'll sit at the corner, and my girls would all be on this side. And the managers of the house told him, oh, these are your potential tenants. Will you go show them the house? Like, no, it's not finalized. And so he took us to see the house. And then he ghosted us for like 2 days. And we needed to move from the other place we were living. We had a deadline. And we needed to move. So he ghosted us for 2 days. And the agent who was helping us came and said, I've gone talk to the management, and they say Wilson is not comfortable because you showed up and you're a woman and your ID is a man's ID. So yeah, there's those situations, and I know there's times I've had my children sign on things because I couldn't sign because it will cause and M-Pesa, most of the times I let them do it because for me it's going to be chaotic and stuff. And so there's all that. There's one of the places we lived at, we were kicked out because we were queer. So the balcony was a bit different from this. It was like, the completely closed one. Mm-hmm. And we had the rainbow flag, and the keyhole was broken, and we had like a small sticker covering it.
Oh, I thought somebody had broken in. Oh.
No, so unfortunately or fortunately, the sticker was for Outright International. It's like a whole LGBT organization. Someone came, I don't know, they came and took a photo of that and sent it to our landlord. And then they made the claim and said we're turning the house. Of course, they couldn't make the accusation that we are queer because there's nothing against that in like occupying the premises. So they said we're turning the house into an office for Outright. And then it caused all this chaos. People started talking in a WhatsApp group. The manager called us. They're like, why don't you add us to the WhatsApp group and we can defend ourselves? And then the admins refused. And then I'm like, okay, send the admins to our house and then we can allay their fears. And if the Christians who are worried will even put a cross. And we put a crucifix. We put a crucifix outside the door. And we took off our sticker. And then finally, so we tell the manager to send them to us. We can talk. It don't have to be such a big issue. If they're afraid of something, they can tell us. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, they're saying you'll teach their daughters. Like, but where do we even interact with? We don't see each other.
Gazing.
Yeah, exactly. And they caused so much chaos. Finally, the owner of the house, he lives in Mombasa, he's not even Nairobi. He called us and was like, people, it's Ramadan and I can't rest. I'm getting calls every day. So what I'll do, I'll fund your money, give you like a whole month.
And how many homes have you moved in, and how long have you lived in either places?
We've moved twice. I mean, thrice, counting the first time we all came together. And then second time, so I think 3 times. Yeah.
And do you see yourselves living together for as long as possible? So kind of like in the understanding of a family, kind of like that family is forever, or will people drift away, or what do you see?
Living together, no. It's, I mean, like most of the goals that we're all working towards to, when they get achieved, they're possibly going to take us apart. So, like, if any of my children decide to get married and start their own house of family, if some of their careers take off, I mean, we're an adult family, so if careers take off, yeah, that's going to pull us away. But being family, I think, will always be that. So if I move somewhere else and one of them wants to come stay, it will be my daughter coming home. Yeah, so
they'll always be your children.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell me about a special memory or something that holds dear in your heart for your family. Like when you think this is a moment in time that, okay, these are really my people.
Let's see. I think the interesting one was Mother's Day. And they were like, oh, happy Mother's Day. And, and so one said, I'm mother of lesbians. And so I used that as my hashtag now online. But yeah, it was really special.
Oh, did they do something special for you? Were they all together?
Did we? Well, we're together in the house. I think we'd stopped having common dinners because we realized our routines were like very weird. But yeah, it was nice. Was there wine? I think there was wine. Yeah, but the words were like the most touching me.
That's beautiful.